good evening and welcome to EBN Weekend Edition. My name is Frederick Njiri. Now, it's been a great week with a lot of things happening, and we'll be discussing some of the things together with my guests in the studio. I'll be introducing them to you later on. But first, let's take a look at the highlights. We will not allow violence again, even if the talks between government and Azimio fails, warns Interior CS Kindiki. BRICS politics. Is Kenya staring at strained relationships with the United States as it embraces anti-dollar campaign? Now, welcome back. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has warned that the government will not allow demonstrations back in the streets, even if the talks between the government and the Azimio faction fail to bear fruit. The CS, who was in Njiri, says that the security of all Kenyans is at the top, and they will do everything to ensure that the Constitution is adhered to. Coming hours after the Azimio Brigade called for the resignation of the Inspector General Police for the deaths that took place during the Azimio demonstration, the Interior CS disclosed that the security units kept off the streets to try and establish whether Azimio was going to hold peaceful demonstration, but were forced to intervene after the demonstrators turned violent. Kindiki insisted that political criminals who have been using their political influence to throw the country into chaos will not be allowed to run gun-ho in the country again, even if the talks between the government and the opposition fail. His sentiments were echoed by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, who at the time His sentiments were echoed by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, who hailed the decision by the opposition not to call for demonstrations. On Saturday, leaders from Azimio vowed to censure the Inspector General Police Japhet Koome in Parliament over the shooting of demonstrators, claiming that this was a crime against humanity.
Wanasiasa wengine pale wakasema wanaitisha maandamano ya kisiasa. Tukajaribu, ilikuwa Jumatano, tukasema wacha tujaribu tuone hawa watu kama wataandamana kwa amani warudi nyumbani. Mlilijionea ile Jumatano, walienda wakaribu expressway ambayo imejengwa na kodi ya Wakenya na madeni ambayo tutalipa. Wakaenda wakafunga barabara, wakaenda wakadunga watu kwa visu, wakaiba mali ya watu, wakachoma gari za polisi, wakapiga polisi na mawe.
Kindiki insisted that political criminals who have been using their political influence to throw the country into chaos will not be allowed to run gun-ho in the country again, even if the talks between the government and the opposition fail.
Na tumesikia sasa wanasiasa wameenda kuongea. Sisi kama walinda usalama hatuna shida, hiyo ni mambo ya demokrasia. Watu ya upinzani na watu ya serikali wakitaka kuongea mambo ya siasa ni sawa, on one condition: hiyo mazungumzo isipofaulu, kusiwe mtu atatishia watu tena ati kwa sababu yale mazungumzo hatujazikizana ati sasa tunarudi kuumiza raia. So the people of Njiri, the people of Kenya, the country is safe. Tuko na changamoto lakini nchi yetu iko salama, na haitawezekana tena mtu yoyote ati kuterrorize wananchi, instilling fear and terror on innocent people because they want to achieve political objectives. We must remove violence from the equation of the politics of our country. Na hiyo iende kila mahali.
His sentiments were echoed by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, who hailed the decision by the opposition not to call for demonstrations.
Kuwa Speaker wa bunge, nimekuwa kwa bunge tangu 1993. Nataka kushukuru, niliona jana kwa news flash kwamba ndugu yetu Raila Odinga amesema hataitisha maandamano Kenya tena kama solution ya mambo ya kisiasa. Na hiyo tunasema that is what we should have done in the first place. But now that we have done it, we salute you for seeing the sense that we have always been.
On Saturday, leaders from Azimio vowed to censure the Inspector General Police Japhet Koome in Parliament over the shooting of demonstrators, claiming that this was a crime against humanity.
It's 72. And we are going to be able to publish these names as early as tomorrow.
The Luo community has been unfairly targeted. Mheshimiwa Wandai has said, we are burying 72 children. These are real people with real families. And then somebody has the audacity to come and say that we have gone to the mortuary and bought bodies to display. I have never seen this kind of incident.
Meanwhile, President William Ruto's ongoing engagement with BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, and China has caused unease in the United States and Europe. Euro-Asia Review, an independent journal that comments on geopolitical matters, reports that Kenya and Ethiopia are displaying interest in aligning with the BRICS, which could consequently draw Somalia into this emerging coalition. The potential choice bears the risk of undermining the West, given Kenya and Somalia's crucial roles as strategic allies in counter-terrorism efforts. US and Europe face the prospects of eroding well-established alliances, both political and economic, that have been carefully cultivated for nearly a century. Kenya has historically received substantial support from Western nations in the forms of development aid, security assistance, and diplomatic partnership. In reciprocation, Western countries have promoted values like democracy, human rights, good governance within Kenya, while also benefiting from lucrative trade agreements. Now, the million-dollar question is this at risk? We'll be having conversation later on in the show with the two very able gentlemen on the same. We're going to paint a clear picture of some of the things that are happening locally, politically, plus this. What could be the ramification of this dalliance to the BRICS nation for Kenya? Meanwhile, some members of parliament from the Luhya community have endorsed Moses Wetangula, the Speaker of the National Assembly, as their spokesman. Speaking in Musoli, Kakamega County, during a fundraising event led by the chairman of the Western Members of Parliament Caucus and the Member of Parliament for Sirisia, John Waluke, the MP stated that Wetangula is ready to negotiate for the benefit of the community, given his government position. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, and other MPs from the Western region have expressed full support for the ongoing bilateral talks between the Kenya Kwanza Alliance and the Azimio la Umoja Alliance, focusing on their main role in restoring peace nationwide. Wetangula emphasized the importance of a stable environment as a catalyst for national development.
Mimi ningependa kuambia viongozi wenzangu, tukue wazi, tukue open, let us declare speaker wetu Moses Wetangula kama Luhya kingpin. Badala ya kwenda hivi kupretend, leta tumalizane na hiyo maneno leo. Tujue kwamba Western iko na kiongozi mmoja ambaye anaitwa Moses Wetangula. Sawa sawa.
Muungano yetu ndio umoja wetu. Na tutaheshimika na jamii zingine kama tumeungana. Nataka kushukuru speaker, tukimuita huwa anatokezea haraka. Na wote wale ambao labda wako kando, mkiona mmoja ako kando haonekanangi kwa hii caucus because iko TV na tukienda tunaonyeshwa kwamba leo tulikuwa mahali fulani. Muarudishe kwa njia, muambie sisi lazima tuungane, ndio jamii zote zituheshimu sisi kama jamii ya Western Region.
Hii safari ambayo tumeanza kama viongozi wa Western Kenya isiishie hapa, isiishie kwa Harambe. Lazima tujiulize, what are our economic aspirations as a region? Tunaona viwanda yetu inakufa na tunataka tuweke zingine. We must speak for the economy of our people. We must speak on our political aspirations.
Thank you, sir.
And we must speak for the welfare of our people. So as we move forward with this union, we must start doing a blueprint that will change the lives of our people in Western Kenya.
Well, the million-dollar question in that story is this: what happens to the chief cabinet secretary, Musalia Mudavadi? I thought he was elevated to that position. Well, let's see what he has to say, because the Chief Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has assured Kenyans that the ongoing discussions between Azimio la Umoja Alliance and the Kenya Kwanza Alliance will prioritize the interests of the citizens and not be involved in power sharing. He emphasized that the 5 agendas being discussed in the ongoing talks are aimed at ensuring peace in the country. Mudavadi made these remarks during the launch of a cooperative savings and credit society for Muslim women in Kakamega, where he was accompanied by Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza. The governor pledged to the residents of Kakamega that strategies have been put in place for a conference of Western leaders to find a lasting solution to the complex issue of sugar factories in the region. Mudavadi defended the cabinet decision regarding the sugar factories in the country.
Rais alipeana mwelekeo kwamba wazungumze kidogo. Alikaa na walipokaa na Raila pale, na hata Obasanjo akakuwa pale, walizungumza mambo matano, na hiyo ndio ilikuwa agenda, na ndio kwa sababu Kimani Ichung'wah akatoa hiyo agenda. Jambo la kwanza, pahali kuna tashwishi kwa IEBC turekebishe. Pahali pa kuhakikisha kwamba CDF inaingizwa kwa mambo ya kisheria, pahali kuna kasoro warekebishe CDF. Neno la pili. Jambo la tatu, kuhusu mambo ya agenda ambayo inasimamiwa na hawa mama wetu, ni kuhakikisha kwamba kuna official leader of the opposition. Hiyo ndio agenda ya 4. Wanataka pia wahakikishe kwamba wanaimarisha nafasi ya Prime Cabinet Secretary vile nimesimama hapa. Mumesikia nikitaja nusu mkate? Mumesikia nikitaja nusu mkate? Kwa hivyo agenda ya nusu mkate haiko pale.
Jambo la miwa ni jambo ambalo linaguza sana sisi kama wakazi wa Western Region. Tarehe 8 mwezi wa Septemba tutakuwa na sugar conference hapa Kakamega, ambayo itajumuisha all the 14 governors from the Lake Region Economic Block. Na nachukua fursa hii kuwaalika. Najua jambo la miwa tunataka tujadiliane kama viongozi ili tupate suluhu ya kudumu for purposes of saving our people and the sugar industry.
Kwa serikali ya Mheshimiwa Ruto amesema kwamba kufufua hizi factory na kuhakikisha kwamba ardhi ya zile communities haipotei. Tutatumia model ya leasing of those sugar factories, na ukilease sasa land haiwezi kaenda na mwingine, inabaki kwa wenyeji na ni lease tu wanapewa. Alafu mambo tuangalie vile tutafufua zile factories. Ndio sasa tuhakikishe kwamba mashamba ama ardhi ambayo ilitolewa na wakaaji wa sehemu hii haitaenda kwa mikono ya watu wengine. Hiyo ni lease, lakini waendeshe mafactory, lakini lease ya shamba inahakikisha shamba inabaki kwa wenyeji.
All right, former heavyweight world champion Anthony Joshua claimed that he's carrying the division after knocking out late replacement Robert Helenius at London's O2. In such a case, they say, lights out. The guy was knocked out. Well, we'll find out exactly what happened to him because he needed oxygen right after that. We're going to go for a short break. And when we come back, we're going to find out, and mostly so, what the dalliance between Kenya and the BRICS nation is going to do to us as a country. So don't go away.
Praise the Lord, viewers. My name is Virginia Wanjiko and I'm here to welcome you to the IFS 2023. This is something that you don't want to miss. It's a transforming, a powerful conference that happens every year. But for 3 years, we've not been having it. So why should you miss? Free boarding, the food is free, everything is free. All you have to do is to pack your bags, pack your Bible, and just come and be impacted by the word of God. I've been attending the IFS since 2009 and I was a young girl, and right now I am a mother. The teachings all through the year have helped me in my walk with Christ. I have known how to live as a young person, and right now I'm waiting to know how to live as a mother. This is something that you don't want to miss. Be blessed. See you there.
Nilikasema nilikuwa kijana sasa ni mzee. Daudi kasema nilikuwa kijana sasa ni mzee.
You've seen them on TV.
Nakushukuru Mungu wangu kwa kunifikisha hapa.
But do you know their stories? Come with me.
If people look at me,
yes,
even before they hear me, will they see Jesus?
Wezi ambia watu mimi am a worshiper, na wakati you are worshiping people can't encounter God.
Ukisoma hiyo inabidi sana katika ile maisha yako hata kama kwamba hauimbi.
Join me, Teddy Salmist, Mwana wa Ngolo Mosio
and DJ Show
every Tuesday and Thursday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. only on EBN TV.
This is EBN TV, transforming your world.
Right, welcome back. It's about that time when we have that conversation about quite a number of things happening in this country. I'll be joining my panelists. I have Abel Onchari. Karibu Abel.
Asante sana.
And I have Bernard Mulua, who is an economist. political analyst. And we look at some of the things that are happening in the country because quite a number of things have been happening. Probably the story that we I just did about, Western Kenya, briefly. Yes. We have now Moses Wetangula, the Speaker of the National Assembly, yes, being crowned by Luhya leaders as the spokesman for Western Kenya. Yet we have a gentleman called Musalia Mudavadi who holds the chiefmost position in terms of, he's the chief, it's like a prime minister.
Yes.
It feels as though Western leaders don't feel or don't see him as a leader if they're crowning Moses Wetangula as their spokesman.
Well, thank you so much for the discussion. You could say so, but then again, when you talk about ranking in terms of the executive,
yes,
after the president and the deputy, you obviously go to the prime cabinet secretary. Mm-hmm. But then when you expand that now to include the legislature, you have the speaker.
Yes.
Now, when you get all of them together, after the president and the deputy, the third most powerful position is the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Yes.
So that is how the speaker comes in.
That's constitutionally.
Yes.
But in terms of politically speaking,
yes,
the chief cabinet secretary is supposed to be senior because of his portfolio.
Yes, he's supposed to be senior when it comes to the cabinet. He's a senior cabinet member. But then again, it's not even about the ranking in terms of government.
Yes.
It's about what has happened in the past, because at some point in 2021, there was a meeting which was convened by the Kotu Secretary General, Francis Atwoli, where at Buhungu Stadium, where Musalia Mudavadi was crowned as a spokesperson for the Luhya community.
Yes.
So when these guys again assemble at some point and decide to crown Moses Wetangula,
it's a coup d'etat.
It's basically creating another crisis in Western. But then again, power does not love vacuum. Anytime there's vacuum, anything can swim in. And that is the tragedy of the politics of Musalia Mudavadi. He's a senior politician, he's been in government for so long, and then at some point he keeps quiet until you begin asking yourself, what is
where
up
is
to?
he?
So
Yeah.
the moment he keeps quiet, there's vacuum, and now you can see all these guys walking in to try and do what? Fill that vacuum. So whatever that has been said today about Moses Wetangula being the spokesperson is not final.
Mm-hmm.
I expect a very quick rejoinder from the Musalia Mudavadi camp to reaffirm that position which was arrived at earlier concerning his position as the spokesperson.
Bernard, you're more of a financial animal.
Yeah.
But I know you don't live in a vacuum. This Musalia Mudavadi's portfolios is humongous.
Yes.
I mean, when it comes to the government delivery unit, he's the one who's in charge of it.
Yes.
He's the one who's supposed to be ensuring that everything happens in government. Mm-hmm. Yet we can hardly feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. In the executive, he controls the third most powerful position in the government. But as my colleague has put it, constitutionally, Moses ranks higher because of being the Speaker of the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Yes.
But the issue of spokesman is more of a political issue than the way the government runs. And we expect at times you are looking at the numbers, you are looking at what numbers contributed to this formation of this government, and who should be rightfully be speaking on the issues of this government.
Yes.
Now, Luhya community has got very many sub-tribes.
Yes.
And fortunately for Moses, the base where he comes from contributed a lot of votes. In fact, it's been in the papers analyzing who made the president to be president, and it all goes back to Mbungoma.
Yes.
No, Mbungoma.
No, to Wetangula.
To Wetangula.
Yes.
So you can see they are trying to push that capital, that we brought more votes than anyone else.
Yes.
And they are trying just to posture themselves that we are the ones who contributed the formation of this government, so this should be the spokesman. So you can read it from there. But
do you feel like Musalia has taken his position? It feels as though I can't tell you if I was told break this government, the contributions and everything, and highlight what Musalia has contributed, you can hardly feel him.
Well, in the current government, when you're supporting the president, it's supposed to be the one shining. And if you start shining
more than
the president, it becomes an issue. And Mudavadi is a gentleman of Kenyan politics. After Mike Kibaki left, he's a gentleman of Kenyan politics. So you would expect he would take his time, he would work, but the shine goes to
the president.
The president is not pushy like the deputy president. You can see he's also trying to cut his own image. And if that happens, then you can have a lot of infighting in the government. So at times it's good for what we call corporate responsibility. It's good at times you have one voice. When we are jostling there, it is an issue also how the government runs.
He basically, I don't know, what can you accredit to him?
Now, Musalia is making a very big mistake when it comes to management of what we call a disintegrated or segmented country. There's a reason as to why the president got him on board in the first place. He was supposed to actually oversee the mobilization of Western and Nyanza votes into government, which he did in a very, his contribution, like he said, was dismal. Then now, after elections, obviously, we have had issues. Now, this is the time he should have gone out to reach out to consolidate Western and Luo Nyanza and make sure the president is covered. So, in the idea of not, being out there trying to flex his muscles, he's doing a big disservice to the president. One of the reasons why the president has actively actually propped him was to give him wings so that he can consolidate Western and some parts of Nyanza to counter the former prime minister. He has done a very shoddy job at that. He has to play politics, and if he does not do that, there's a reason as to why the president moved the presidential delivery unit to his docket. Basically to give him strength. He employs people, he mobilizes people, he gets the powers to control Western. So as we approach 2027, which is not far away, it will get to a point where the person who will be mobilizing votes substantially is Moses. And, political capital is the number of votes you bring. So he's doing himself a big disservice by not being aggressive enough. Too much aggression is not good, but then again, being lethargic, like a well-fed python, is also not good.
Like a well-fed python.
Yes, once a python has swallowed a goat, it can take 3 weeks without moving. You can shit on it, and then, it does not even feel like someone has stepped on it. Right? So he just has to move. And I think he has got very poor political advisors who have not done anything for him. He should have moved with speed. He hires people to fill the government delivery services. His presence could have been felt by now. But it's not there. It's not there. And he's known as a soft guy. When people know you as a gentleman, they give you a lot of space for operation. He can go out there and do so many things and still get away with it. He's not utilizing that space adequately. And I think what Moses has done is very good. It's meant now to do what? To jolt him into action. Yes. And I think at some point the president will get tired. There's a reason as to why the president deliberately empowered Musalia. Musalia comes in with, number one, government experience. You can travel back all the way to the 1990s when he was, fished from campus and made minister for finance and economic planning. He has experience. Then he has an air of believability. When he talks, he commands some,
he's a nice guy. You can believe him.
You can trust him.
Yes.
So that is the kind of capital the president wanted to milk from him. But if you're not out there talking as much as you should, then that is a wasted capital.
You talked about aggressiveness.
Yes.
Too much aggressiveness is not very good. Our president has been very aggressive, and mostly so when you're talking about geopolitical.
Yes.
He's been very aggressive. At the African Union, I remember him telling countries, by the way, we need to stop using the US dollar when we trade with one another. We need to start trading using our own currency. And according to the report that I just read, it's starting to raise concern within the Western hemisphere, the US and Europe, because they're wondering, okay, is this guy going too much towards Russia, China, the BRICS? And the effects that he's seeking, what kind of effect can that have on the US itself? Because the campaign is to make sure that the US dollar is not the global reserve currency? But you're the political animal.
Thank you.
I mean, you're the financial animal.
Thank you. Yeah. I think, yes, this can be a concern. If a currency...
Are the US, are they right? Is it right for them to get concerned?
Yes, it can raise concern. Because what we need to understand about payment and settlement systems is that if a currency becomes the preferred currency for settlement, then it means that money never leaves your territory. Okay?
Never leaves your territory?
Yeah, it is within your territory. Because I'll give an example. If you are to say here, you are our father, and somebody sends a gift to me, me, your child, you are the one to receive that money and hold it in trust for me. So that money is with you.
Yes.
If somebody else sends the money to him, and is also a child for you, you'll still be holding that money. So what me I'm having is a claim for that money, but the actual money is you are holding it.
Yes.
If I decided to pay my brother part of that money, you just move from one pocket and put it in the other pocket. You are still holding the money. Yes. So it increases his claim on what you are holding, and it reduces my claim.
Yes.
So this international payment system, if you designate a currency, then it means the resources are pumped into that country. And when those resources are idle, then the country can use it for its own development because the claims are not being encashed. That's what it means. So when US currency, people start fighting to remove it from being the currency of transaction, then US needs to get concerned. And in history, we have seen them. There's a time when Obama was the president, China even said they want to stop using US currency. He had to go there and negotiate them with them, and they agreed to continue using US currency to hold their reserves, to hold their trade using that currency. So it has an impact because each currency has got its capital. If it is Kenya shillings, nobody in the world can buy Kenya shillings elsewhere except in Nairobi. And it means then everyone will be talking to Nairobi when you want to do your transaction in Kenya shillings.
Yes.
So that is what is the impact. It has an economic implication to our country if you change that. So what this
whatever that President William Ruto is seeking, how is it going to benefit us?
Okay, when there is competition, there is an issue of demand and supply. So when there is that competition, then the countries which are less endowed find their currencies getting depreciated against the US dollar. Then it becomes very expensive for us to buy goods.
Yes.
And that is what we are finding a problem for Africa or other countries which are not well endowed.
Yes.
And that is why the president is pushing. Why should he buy from Uganda or Uganda buy from us and we have to settle in New York? Why can't we agree and we settle within ourselves in our own currencies? Because that way then we don't have to be subjected to an expensive dollar. And we don't have to look for dollars to pay them. Yes. Because it means when the invoice is in dollars, you have to go and look for them and buy very expensively. That is what he's trying to push. So if African countries can come together and have a settlement system, and they are proposing there's African Exim Bank, and we have settlement there. When we are buying, maybe Uganda will invoice us in their own currency, and we look at what is the conversion. We pay our Kenya shillings.
So that removes the demand on the dollar, and it gives value to the Kenya shillings.
Exactly.
Because now we are not buying in the US dollars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, but politically, the geopolitics right now, what is the likelihood and likely impact of the kind of move that the Kenyan government is pulling now, becoming a darling of the BRICS nation?
It's not a very complex issue. Historically, when you travel back in time, countries participate in what we call alignments and realignments based on national interests. So when you see the perceived or intended shift from the West, maybe to the East, the question is, what's the interest? So there are a couple of issues that come out. Kenya has an issue with security. Kenya has an issue with economics. Kenya has an issue with history.
History.
For,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
You know, we were colonized by the Britons.
Yes.
They have
Yes.
a footprint here.
Yeah.
It's very deep. The Britons are friends with the Americans. You know, the French, the Danish, Swedish, and all that. They're here. They've been here for so long. So since the 1800s, something you cannot talk about when you're looking at China, Russia, Brazil, India. You know. Now the point is, there is an element of vain politics and active, substantive intention to move. So what we've seen the president do, like he has done in so many issues to do with foreign policy, is to flip-flop. He's basically fumbling in the dark. As we speak now, the Russians, they're at war with the Ukrainians.
Yes.
And it's like the Russians have actually gotten what they didn't expect. A battle which was supposed to last 1 week has gone on for 18 months now.
Yes.
Okay, and there is a rumor that Russia has exhausted its most lethal arsenal, apart from, of course, nuclear weapons. Personally, I was expecting Russia to just move in and crush Ukraine within maybe a week. It's not happened. Now, NATO has supported Ukraine, of course. That is a given, and it was expected. So they've done what they've always wanted to do. You crush Russia completely, right? So when you go to Brazil, it doesn't have the economic muscle to support another nation, as we speak now.
Who, Brazil?
Yes. India has a population control problem. The same problem China has as we speak. You remember at some point we were being told the Chinese economy is going to experience a decade of uninterrupted what? Growth.
Growth.
But that is not being happening. It's slowed considerably. And that is expected in what we call closed systems, controlled systems, where they control what they tell the world. You remember when there was COVID, we could not even get news of the number of people who died in China because those guys were being cremated very quickly, right? An open system like the US, when there's a problem you can tell, and an open system is always ready for challenge. And you know, the moment you can stand the tremors of scrutiny, you become stronger. I can predict another 100 years of American dominance in global politics and economics. So the president has to get his politics right. It will take a very long time to shift the focus from the West to the BRICS. You cannot move from your, tattered roof to another tattered roof. Ever since the president took office, for some reason, the number of attacks on our armed forces has gone up. We've lost a very, very huge number of young men, in the KDF.
The terror attacks.
Yes. And that is because at some point, I think the Americans stopped sharing intel with our guys because they say they're leakages. They tell us, this guy is going to attack here. And then someone from within government shares that intel with the Al-Shabaab guys. They come in earlier than announced and they attack our guys. They've been killing them. So if we have this kind of problem, can the Russians help? The answer is no. They have issues back home. Can the Indians help? The answer is no. Can the Brazilians help? The answer is no. Can the South Africans help? Hell no. So we have to be very careful with what's going on. The president has to be advised accordingly. So the issue...
But is there a possibility that he's bluffing them and by doing this, trying to get the Western countries to a point whereby they start playing his game?
I don't think so. I don't think so because, these guys are on top of the game every single time, okay? The Americans...
But Kenya is a very strategic nation and quite a number of people. I know the Chinese would love to establish their base in Kenya. We have the Americans who have their Manda Bay base here. We have the Brits who are training their soldiers in Nanyuki.
Yes.
So very strategic country geopolitically.
Now there's a difference between communication. We call it tinged communication, which is basically propaganda, and reality. At some point, when the Americans wanted to take some military action in Libya, some neighboring countries said, "Oh, you cannot use our soil." They got in their, aircraft carriers. They stationed them at the Mediterranean Sea and fired missiles into Libya. Okay, right from the sea, in the middle of the sea. Now they don't need our ground to actually attack Al-Shabaab in Mogadishu or wherever. They don't need that. It's just more convenient to to carry some operations, let's say maybe they send some Navy SEALs to Mogadishu, they can use Kenya as a refueling ground before they can proceed. That can be done by another country. So once again, we have to be very sure of our strength. We have to do that. Before you can flex your muscles and strike your neighbor, know your strength, or else it kills you. So we need them more than they need us, and we shouldn't be bluffing, trying to run to a place where we cannot get help.
Do you think it's a bluff?
Well,
and if it's a bluff, what do we stand to benefit?
Well, what I'd like us to see is look at where are the other countries. In North America, you have NAFTA, North Atlantic Free Trade Association.
Yes.
In Europe, you got the European Union, which is more of economic grouping than political.
Yes.
Our AU is more political, but no economic muscle.
Yes. In fact, I think a lot of activities of the African Union are funded by the Americans and the Chinese.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think there's nothing wrong with trying also to build your own, economic zones and see how you can benefit. Some of these countries like Kenya, vis-a-vis America and all that, the economies are very small. So if we can come together and be strong, then you find even negotiation becomes easier. If you look at the president, is moved around doing new bilateral trade negotiation with quite a number of countries which either we are not trading with, which is helping. So if we can also have better trading activity with Brazil, China, Russia, that's better for us. So I don't think it's a bad thing. We've seen so many people are lined up to join. Saudi Arabia is there waiting.
It's waiting to join BRICS.
Yeah. Yes. UAE, Argentina has also applied. South Korea. There are so many countries which are applying. If you go to the other side, there is OECD, which also they sit and dictate to the world how they want to do things.
Yes.
So I think it's also good to have your group where you can be able to say things. Yeah. So to me, I don't see anything wrong with that, so long as it brings economic transformation and improvement, because trade is trade. We have much more capacity which we are not trading. It's just simply because people don't know, and we don't have the agreements, we don't have the infrastructure to do it. So this, by joining this, it can create a new infrastructure for us to trade. I think it is better for the country.
Just the other day, just talking about some of the dalliance that the Kenyan government is making with countries that, countries like the US would call enemies or terrorist state, like Iran. The other day we had the Iranian president around. And, there's obviously a lot of trade that was talked about. Yes. And this obviously would end up creating a lot of friction between Kenya and Israel, Kenya and the United States, for obvious reasons. They consider Iran as, a rogue country.
Yeah, and if I can borrow some language from economists, there's something we call opportunity cost. What you lose at the expense of what you choose. Okay? So at the end of the day, when you look at the choices we're making, and that is why I'm always saying the president stands naked as we speak now when it comes to foreign policy. He's made wrong choices. In some cases, he's actually made an about turn when it's too late, like the Iranian president. They discovered very late that it shouldn't have happened, and then, it was watered down a little bit, so as to avoid breaking links with Israel and the US and all that. So you look at the kind of benefit you can get from a country like Iran, for instance. They were talking about motor vehicle assembly. Me and it will take Kenya another 35 to 40 or 55 years to outdo Toyota. It's not possible to introduce these unknown brands and then you tell us you're going to create jobs and stuff like that. Now, if you do that, if you move closer to Iran, the security support we've always gotten from the US and Iran is withdrawn, and then you remain naked. So again, once again, security plays a very vital role in a place like Kenya. So the moment you move close to Russia, India, Brazil, Iran, and all that, and the Americans withdraw, it will take a very long time for these guys to bring substantial assets to begin monitoring of these guys who always attack us. And once these terrorist attacks increase, these guys who call themselves investors will take off, right? So that will ground our economy. And the moment the BRICS realize that we don't have anything to offer, they'll abandon us. So these moves have to be calculated, research has to be done, and the president has to be reminded every single time, not every link that was established sometimes back is wrong.
Yes.
They have to be checked. So, and then of course, as for the Chinese are a special case, not just in Kenya, but in so many African countries. The Chinese have some qualities the West does not have, and that is why I like the approach which was used by Kibaki and the retired President Uhuru. Uhuru and Kibaki maintained very close operations with the West, as it has always happened, but then they accepted the Chinese on what we call capital projects. You know, these guys work very hard, and they work day and night. A project cannot take 2 years. Within a year, it's complete. That is what they did as SGR, Thika Superhighway, and so many other projects. They fast track it, which is good for the economy. Now, that is something we did not witnessed
with
from
the
Western. Yes. So that it was limited to projects like that. And then, of course, their funding, anytime we wanted a loan, it could come, and then it's utilized. Of course, some money is stolen and some is used for these projects. So I had advised the president to actually employ the same path.
Maintain the relationship with the West, but
then
for capital projects,
you welcome in the Chinese.
Yes.
Just the Chinese, because the Russians don't have any economic footprint in most African countries, and they've always struggled. If you talk to people who've gone to Russia recently, they'll tell you people are struggling there. In fact, Kenyans are having a better life than in Russia as we speak now. You know, all these things of nuclear weapons and you know, it's too much and about nothing. Yeah, there is a lot of, actually Russians struggling. They're working very hard to move out of the country as we speak. So the BRICS, for politics, trying to posture, make a lot of noise and be heard, it's okay. But in actuality, there is basically nothing. Yes.
So with the moves that have been made so far, how do you see our economy looking up? We'll keep on looking at it on a week-by-week basis.
Well, as I said, I think... Sorry. Yeah, we have to keep
I brought you some water here, by the way. You can drink some water.
Thank you.
By the way, it's hot water and it's actually water. Real water.
Thank you. So as I said, I think we have to keep on trying. And the countries we are not dealing with, it's good we can open ways to deal with them. Because every time, even a small country like Djibouti, you see, after the president went there, we are sending 900 teachers.
Yes.
The first batch. That is starting point. It is creating employment for us.
Yes.
We did have that. So it's good we keep on engaging so that we can have new lines and new trading lines for the country. Because if you stick to the traditional ones, then you have an issue. As a sovereign state, every country, and as my colleague has put it, every country tries to posture its interest. And we see US trades more actually with China than even we can imagine ourselves. Even with Russia.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trade
between these countries.
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with Kenya also coming to the table to be able to take something and be able to trade. Sugar, if you talk of sugar imports, whatever India produces is consumed locally. Yet it is maybe the second largest producer.
It's consumed in India.
In India, yeah. So the only other country which is able to sell sugar outside there is Brazil. So when you get closer, maybe then we can now, So we need to look at also this from that perspective. Okay, the abstract way of saying now we are leaving you and going to this one, that does not work. Because already you have traditional relationship that we have built over time, you cannot just abandon. But issues whereby we can come in and bring in the other parties and be able to trade, then I think it is okay. So to me, I feel that is what we should do. And looking at what is happening is we are not keeping quiet, at least we are trying. The Pan-African voice is being heard, and for some time, even when President Uhuru was there, he also tried to push it up. So Kenya plays that kind of role, and that's why even became a member in the Security Council. And we have the burden also to speak for the rest of Africa. So we cannot stop doing that. Yeah, thank you.
As we close, how do you outlook for that for our economy?
From a political standpoint, obviously, when I listen to the president, he sounds very confident. But I work for a research company, and they also do some economic research. The fundamentals of the Kenyan economy are very strong, very, very strong.
The fundamentals of the Kenyan economy are strong.
Very, very strong. So the only two areas where there is some element of suffering, and there's one area where the suffering is widespread. So that is power bill, electricity, you know.
Cost of production.
So the other area which affects a number of people is fuel. Especially guys who drive, you know, they're feeling the pinch of having to pay more. But then when you go to food prices, you know, that is working out very well, because, you know, we had the rains and people planted, farmers got fertilizer that was subsidized, and then of course the number of people getting jobs has gone up. For some reason, you know, some positions have come up and people are being absorbed, and then of course the president has moved around and opened new avenues of employment for our young people, which is very, very vital. You know, we have a very, very huge group of young people are restless and yet highly qualified. You know, our education system produces employees, not job creators. That is the tragedy of the whole thing. So the fundamentals are strong. If we move the way we are doing, and then of course there is the element of tranquility. The former Prime Minister accepted to have Maandamano put aside as they look for a political solution to, you know, the issues he was raising, which means now businesses can do what? They can hire. There's an element of predictability. So we're moving forward and it's looking good. So what the president needs to do now, number one, is to control corruption. Number two, he needs to focus on performance by his members of the cabinet. And I didn't have to even remind him, because I saw him call them back to sign those performance contracts, and whoever showed up late was either warned or locked out. So that means it's very serious. So in another 6-7 months, I think the economy will be in a very good place, because there's this month there's harvesting that is going on. So I expect food prices to actually go even further down. So we are doing well. What's happening is there's a problem with education. There's a problem with because of the manner in which you know, the school fees issue is being handled. And then of course there's an issue with the funds the president has been talking about. Hustler Fund, you know, the women fund, and there's a manner in which the money is not being, you know, increased.
The impact on the ground, is it being felt? Those funds?
It's not being felt because of the amounts being disbursed. So if you want to help, you have to increase the amount of money you're giving to people. If I apply for Hustler Fund, I get 1,200, next time 1,200, you know, that doesn't help much. Especially when it goes to now biashara, you know, let people get a substantial amount of money which can do what? Boost their businesses.
But unfortunately, quite a number of people are not paying.
When you look at the records, even the president himself has admitted Kenyans are paying. They're actually paying very well. In some places, of course, you'll find up to like 70%, but in some places it goes up to like 90%. So that is, to me, that is a good portion of Kenyans who are paying back in the hope of
getting more,
which does not happen. Now, the issue of employment beyond our borders, that is okay. At some point, I remember the Rwandese came here and requested for teachers, and the guys went there and worked nicely. And you see the Rwandese government treated them very well. Now, without fear of contradiction, we've had issues with Muslim countries.
Saudi Arabia.
You know, they've talked about Djibouti and all that. I always have issues with that because they don't handle our people well. So until that happens, I'll not be comfortable advising anyone to go and work, for example, in Saudi Arabia. No, we should have, and I expected the president to actually tell the Saudi guys that, hey, we always need you to account. Anytime there's someone coming back in a coffin, whether it's a house help or what, you should be able to tell us what's going on. That has not happened. And if the president has to go to there and look for places where people can be employed, I'd advise him to look for places where people are treated humanely. Canada, that was wonderful. If you can find something for Kenyans in the US, that is good. You know, Britain, Finland, Denmark, that is okay. Issues of Djibouti, Saudi Arabia, I'm still against that strongly. Yes.
All right. Yeah. Well, we got to bring down the curtains on the show. I hope you got a better understanding of what is happening both locally and globally in as far as, you know, issues that affect Kenya are concerned. We'll keep on looking at what is happening and updating you on the same. By the way, I don't know whether you know, tomorrow is a Monday, right? Monday the 14th. And if you can remember, we've been talking about a conference that is happening right here in this building, Redeemed Gospel Buruburu. There's a lot of things that will be happening in the course of this week. Some of the preaching will put on air, but you need to come. We have preachers from around the world, South Africa, you name it, United States, that are come here with a message from the Lord just for you. So you cannot afford to miss to attend this conference. So make a date with this conference. Come, register tomorrow morning. Tomorrow in the morning. Remember, all the people, if you are coming to board, there will be boarding spaces provided for you free of charge. Meals from breakfast all the way to dinner will also be free of charge. So please make a way. Just come, get blessed, let your spirit grow, so that no matter what is happening around the world, your spirit will be firm and you will not be moved. Right? Awesome stuff. So see you there tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Abel Njiri.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.